You sure it was wise to open that can of Coke, Ben?
I don't think so, because being this close to the mic, it does start repeating, and I don't really want to wish that upon the listener.
Wasn't the best idea. Anyway, this is a weird one, Ben, because at the time of recording, our podcast doesn't exist. But by the time this is live, so to speak, episodes 1 to 3 will have been available for a week.
Wow.
So this podcast sort of does exist and doesn't exist at the same time. It's very much Schrodinger's podcast at the moment.
Well, that's something for us to muse upon, isn't it?
I mean, I think Schrodinger should probably get his own podcast.
Yes.
Truth be told. Could be about cats. Possibly.
Get on with it, man.
Well, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Oh, just vehicle-orientated nonsense, really, which I don't think I can. Basically, the vehicle that we started trying to record this podcast into, which looked as though I was abducting you as you got into the back of it. Camper van.
The camper van, yes.
Yeah, for those. Well, why would the listeners know about that? Well, I was going to say for those who know, but of course they don't know, because I had to tell them.
You did reference it briefly in episode 1, so if they've done their homework and they've really been paying attention.
Well, if they've been taking notes, I suppose. So,
a van was mentioned, but you're right, we haven't actually recorded any of the episodes.
But there's all sorts of issues with the van, but now I've got a car, and I had a car before I had the van, so I probably shouldn't have gotten the van, but I mean, who cares?
I don't think anyone cares.
Well, what's your week been then?
Thank you for asking.
Tell me what earth-shattering week you've had.
It's been nice not to have to prompt you to ask about my week. That's been, we've look at the evolution of this podcast even now. I've been learning how to use the Audacity software to edit the first 3 episodes of this podcast. And I can tell you, Ben, that editing a podcast is a lot like coming across a photocopier with a paper jam. Except,
well, we've all in teaching experienced that.
We have, except in this case, I can't just ignore it and hope someone else sorts it out.
No, that's what I do. I always do that. I always get a jam.
Yeah, and just walk away. Just walk away.
My skills are just approaching 50. Yeah. 50 when this comes out. You know, no need to start the old happy birthday. I always walk away. My skills do not stretch to pulling out the 25 different drawers.
No. But you do, like I do, you just leave it. You don't even tell anyone it's jammed. Anyway, probably time to start the show.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Ben and James Could Do Better, a podcast that is definitely not about cats, but which might contain some references to working in a secondary school.
Yes, unfortunately.
Although often it doesn't, to be fair.
No.
So it's been a bit of a tradition. It's a tradition. We're on episode 4. Well, a gimmick, if you like, for me to call the register at the start.
Yes.
So I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
So I'm James and I'm here. But let's see who else is here. Schrodinger. No, Schrodinger's not here.
No.
We'll have to do an attendance plan for him, although he is dead. So I might C-code this one.
Yeah.
Authorised absence. Ben.
Is fat. Somebody said that in a lesson I had very recently.
They answered their own name.
No. What happened was somebody who wasn't fat was next on the register. The student sitting next to him said, when I read the name out, he came in like a bullet out of a gun and said, is fat. Everybody fell about laughing, even though the child wasn't fat.
It's funnier that they weren't, actually, isn't
yes,
it?
I suppose so. There are all sorts of other things you could have put on there, but I don't... Unfortunately, students aren't always as up to speed as you'd want them to be on the protected characteristics, so I don't really want to sort of go down that line. But I've had numerous versions of that. Just say the name again. I'll show you how quick it was.
Right, so Ben
is fat. It was like that.
Anyway, we have a Ben, we have a James. We don't have a Schrodinger. It is time now for us to do better. So last week, we looked at why we should become teachers, and we used the DFE's Getting to Teaching website. So this week, I thought a natural follow-on might be to consider how best to begin that journey. And it would be churlish to look anywhere other than the same website. So I've gone back to get into teaching.
Oh, gosh.
Because we enjoyed that.
People say teaching is a vocation, though, don't they? Don't they? It's not a job, it's a vocation, which is a lovely word for career that you have to usually explain to your therapist.
That's why people get into teaching, but how do they get into teaching? Before we move on to that, obviously we haven't referenced this week's postcard.
No. I can see you brandishing something. Oh, my God, that's awful.
I got this, again, Reading Museum gift shop.
Give it here.
10p, that cost me. 10p. Could you describe it for us this week, Ben?
It's a jaunty, angled shot of the famous Reading shopping centre known as the Oracle.
It's the riverside view of the Oracle shopping centre.
It's a riverside view. Let's.
Is it a river? I think it's a canal, the Kennet, if I was going to be pedantic. But they call it the riverside, and that is a picture of it. And I mean, it's not a bad picture.
I'm not saying it's a bad picture. It's the subject matter.
The subject matter doesn't merit a picture. As far as pictures of that go, it's quite a good one, actually.
Perhaps we could sign these to make them worth slightly less than they retail at. So that's probably taking them down tuppenny bit per signature, so down to 6p. And we could give that to a listener, couldn't we? A lucky listener who puts something in the comments first.
And it's genuinely possible by this stage we've got listeners. I don't know. I don't want to be overly optimistic. But right. Yes, that could be a prize.
Yeah,
okay, there we go.
So.
That's available, potentially, signed.
Yeah, we could Donald Trump ink it on the back. Yes. You know what I mean?
I look forward to that moment. Back to the point of the episode, which is if you're thinking of becoming a teacher, how do you do it? How do you get into teaching? Well, Get Into Teaching have got a whole page dedicated to this because it's not obvious. If you're thinking of becoming a teacher, here is Get Into Teaching's advice. It's an 8-point guide. Okay. I'm going to have to paraphrase a bit because if we go verbatim on this, it will take too long. Point 1, check your qualifications. I think if that is point 1 on the checklist, you've got to check your own qualifications. You may not be suited to the profession because I think we'd be looking for people who actually know what qualifications they've got. So if you've got to check, maybe just give up at that point. Point 2, understand funding. There are fees when you do teacher training. There are loans. There are bursaries. It's all very boring, but I guess it is probably useful to know.
Yeah.
I remember that one of the main reasons I did the training was because there was some sort of golden hello available to me should I complete my, what was then my NQT year. And I did do that, and I got the golden hello, and it wasn't anywhere near as golden as I thought it was. I don't know what the funding situation is now. I'll be honest with you, I don't care. I qualified years ago. But if you were thinking of getting into teaching and you've made it past the qualification check, then I suppose understanding funding is probably quite sensible.
Yeah.
You'd agree with that?
Yeah.
Point 3, consider getting experience. Now, I don't know about you. Back when I started the training, that was the advice then as well, get some experience. So I volunteered in my old secondary school for a week.
And that didn't put you off, did it?
It was awful, actually. it nearly did.
So it did put you off, but you did it anyway?
It did put me off, yeah. I hated it. It was an awful week. And if it wasn't for that golden hello, I would have not joined the profession, actually.
Oh, that's cynical, James.
I don't know. Look, if you're thinking of joining the profession, if you're listening to this and you're not yet a teacher and, you've tuned in thinking, would I like to be a teacher? Spending time in a school staff room is definitely something that you should do before you join the profession. If that doesn't put you off, then maybe it is the right move for you.
Yeah, it's not the students you need to worry about.
Anyway, on to point 4, quite a pivotal one, this one. Find a postgraduate teacher training course.
Gosh, this is mind-blowing, isn't it?
Probably a good idea if you've got a degree. But, I mean, as you'll probably be discussing in a moment, Ben, postgraduate isn't the only route into teaching, of course. So
no, definitely not.
I think point 4 possibly could have been point 1, though.
Yeah.
Find a course.
Yeah, because if you found the course, it would tell you what qualifications you needed anyway.
It would, and it would probably talk about funding and telling you to get some work experience. So all of that would be kind of linked in. Anyway, you found a course, you've done all that. Point 5, apply for teacher training. It's a separate point. So if you are the kind of person that finds a course and doesn't understand that you've got to apply to do that course, again, I'm not sure this is the profession for you.
No.
I think we need people who've got the skill set to understand that just finding the course isn't going to get you on the course, and you may need to fill in some sort of form
No, I'm despairing so far. Yeah, have they got any more plum advice?
Well, there are. That was 5 of the 8 points we've got to, and we've got as far as applying for the teacher training.
Yeah.
Point 6: start your teacher training. Okay. So, if you've mastered point 4 and 5, but haven't realised that you actually need to turn up to the course.
This, it's a boring gift, but it does keep on giving.
The Get Into Teaching website thinks teachers are so stupid that...
not the best sort of...
Or potential teachers.
Compliment to what is supposed to be a profession, is it?
Of people. We are passing on our knowledge to the next generation, but apparently we're made up of people
inspiring people as well. So that's in every word, if I remember from last time, in every word that we say, every interaction that we have.
And the same people who are inspiring the next generation need to find a course and then be told to apply for that course and then be told to start that course. Okay, so point 6 is start your teacher training. Now, it's a big leap to point 7. After that quite slow build-up, point 7, apply. Sorry. Point 7 is apply for a teaching role.
Okay, they've missed out the course.
They've missed out the entire course,
and which could be anything from 1 to 3+ years.
Yeah. So. Start your teacher training, point 6. Apply for a teaching role, point 7. It's a little premature if you've not completed the course, I'd say. Okay.
Right.
But fortunately, that does bring us right up to point 8. So you've applied for a teaching role in point 7. And point 8, start your career.
Start your career.
Start your career.
Well, I mean, that's sort of presupposing the first job you apply for, you'll get.
Absolutely, yes.
And you immediately commence your career.
Yes.
Oh, my word.
Yes, so those are the steps to becoming a teacher.
Dear.
A lot of admin around the finding what, lots, very slow build up to that. You've started your career.
I must admit, I mean, for the first 4 to 5 points, I was bored rigid. I thought, where's this going? But I can see where it's going. Nowhere, basically.
Given the myriad different routes available into teaching, and there are many, that guidance, that's the Get Into Teaching website from the DFE's guidance on how to get into teaching. And if I'd started reading that, not knowing anything, by the end of it, I still don't know anything.
I know.
So
it's absolutely appalling, isn't it? And they would have had meetings about this, meeting after meeting after meeting with the ad agency. What are we going to put on? Or what do you think for the first one then? Because arguably finding the course that you want to do might be for check your qualifications. What have you been doing? I'm a labourer on a building site. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But there is something wrong with it if you're wanting to immediately start a career in teaching. So you go to the Get Into Teaching website and you go, check your qualifications. I haven't got any. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll move on to point 2, understand the funding. Because it doesn't say, well, it might do in the guidance underneath. Now, you've got the benefit of having read it all, but it might say what those qualifications need to be, does it?
Because you can't get into teacher training without maths, English and science, GCSEs, or you couldn't in my day, and I imagine that's the same.
It is the same.
I think that's all it alludes to.
On that, by the way, why? What difference does it make? I'm a drama teacher, okay? Yeah. You were a French teacher.
Yeah.
Whether you got a GCSE in maths, where does that come into it?
It helped me become a maths teacher.
But unless you're a maths teacher, clever clogs, we'll have to say, I had another word in mind. But why? Where does the GCSE in maths come into it? Why does the GCSE in maths matter?
Well, it doesn't, and I can tell you why it doesn't. I understand there's this sort of, you need to be at least as qualified. These are the standards we expect of our children, etc. But it doesn't matter because I knew of someone, I went to university with this person who wanted to be a teacher and didn't have their maths GCSE for whatever. They got a degree in French, but they were unable to get their maths GCSE. And they were intelligent enough. There's no reason why they couldn't get their maths GCSE. But they just couldn't do it. For whatever reason, there was a mental block. They just couldn't do it. So obviously teacher training was not a route they could go down in England. So what they did was they moved to Scotland for a year, trained to be a teacher in Scotland, and then moved back to England and got a job in a school as a teacher. So
I was going to regale you with various stories from my teacher training days, and I'm sure you've got plenty as well. I think in your case, more about which bars you frequented.
Not while I was doing the teacher training, actually.
Oh, right,
no,
okay.
That was the degree.
Oh, the degree. You checked your qualifications to see if you had one at the end of your
I
degree,
had
did you?
more than enough qualifications to access a teacher training course at postgraduate level.
No, but what I was going to say was we're going to do another episode on all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Which would be great. But there are loads of routes into teaching. It's a bit dizzying. I mean, you've got PGCE, School Direct, Teach First, and of course, Bad Luck.
Yes.
I don't. Which route did you go down?
Well,
I mean, there's plenty more routes, but I'm just giving a few examples.
Combination of the PGC and Bad Luck, I suppose. Genuinely bad luck in my case, because I went to university late anyway. I didn't go straight from school for various reasons, and far too complex to go into now. But
too deep and dark.
Too deep and pretty dark, actually. Yeah, but I did. So I went in to my degree in what was a booming economy. Yeah, it really was. It was a good time to be a British graduate when I started my degree. And I graduated into an economy that was just absolutely just failing horribly. So all the opportunities I thought I was going to get with my degree just did not exist. And a lot of the graduate recruitment schemes had sort of dried up, particularly for someone who got what we like to refer to in the trade as the drinker's degree or the 2-2. But teaching was still available. Now, I didn't go straight into teaching. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. I spent a few years working in various jobs that were not satisfying in any way. And during that time, came across former classmates, etc., become teachers. And it seemed more interesting than what I was doing. And then there was obviously the TDA adverts that I'd sort of referred to.
Well, yeah, and you had the doe-eyed students.
Absolutely.
Looking up at these godlike teachers, didn't you? Imparting their incredible inspirational knowledge. And I'm not just sure, I know there are lots of teachers like that, but I think it'd be fair to say not all of them are like that.
No.
But it inspired you, didn't it? I remember again at that time, there was two main routes. I did a 4-year what was called BA Hons Ed degree. Prior to that was known as the Bachelor of Education. Now, that doesn't seem to exist any longer. But that was a 4-year course where you did teacher training for the 4 years alongside your university study. So it was a very practical course with lots and lots of teaching practice throughout 4 years. Or you did a PGCE. There wasn't all these other things like, School Direct, Teach First. I mean, Teach First sounds less like a training program and more like a threat, doesn't it?
Certainly. I mean, I want to be clear. We work with a lot of Teach First colleagues, and some of them have been people who genuinely want to be teachers.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And
although the ones that, if I may say, slightly irritate are the ones who say, I just want to give something back. Well, it's normally 1 year and then they go off and do something else.
And we've met plenty of those as well who they didn't want to, and that's... I suppose if it brings people into the profession who then stay, it's fine. And maybe we've got to take the hit of some people not wanting to and using it as a...
Yeah, I don't like it when it's virtue signalling. And there are younger people who do that course as well, who do genuinely get inspired by the whole process of teaching and then go on and make a massive contribution. But it's the 1 year wonders that I think
I suppose equally you could say there are people who for whom it was genuinely a vocation who joined the profession and then realise everything they thought about it wasn't true.
I mean, somebody here online has said something not particularly favourable about School Direct, and they've just said, fantastic route if you like your emotional breakdowns to be work-based and immediate.
Yeah. Well, I think you could say the same with certainly my experience of the PGC was
possibly a bit unfair.
Wasn't dissimilar. I would say, and I think it was said to me before I started the PGC, this will be the hardest and one of the most miserable years of your life. And they weren't lying.
Yeah, nobody's ever tried to oversell a PGCE, have they? As far as I'm aware.
It was absolutely
They always say it's going to be dreadful.
I was told it'd be dreadful, and it was dreadful, and it was awful, and it nearly did for me. And actually, as much as we made fun of that supply agency a couple of weeks back, it was supply teaching that kept me in the profession, because I finished, I was kind of like, I got through the PGCE with the sort of, I've started this, so I'll finish it kind of attitude. I'm not going to just not finish it, but then I'm not going to be a teacher because I hated every second of the PGCE. And then I became a supply teacher because I thought, well, I've got the qualification. I might as well do a little bit of supply work while I work out what I really want to do. Yeah. And then that was completely different. And actually, without someone in the back of the class judging me every 5 seconds, it turns out I was all right at it and I quite enjoyed it. And then people told me, actually, you're quite good at this. Will you stay? And I started getting offers of permanent contracts through doing supply work. So, and then one thing led to another. And, I'm sat opposite you.
I was getting a bit doe-eyed there, thinking, what a wonderful insight into your life that was.
Wasn't it? Yeah, but I mean, I think there are a lot of really good teachers. I'm not counting myself amongst them. I mean,
you shouldn't.
It's not for me to say.
I spoke to your Year 11 class the other day.
Yeah.
And they like you. They do like you. They do like you.
But yes, I wouldn't claim to be a great teacher, and I think anyone who claims to be a great teacher probably isn't one. I think that's something you have to be, some other people have to make that judgment of you. But I would say that a lot of people I consider to be great teachers are people who didn't necessarily come into it for vocational reasons. Maybe, like me, came into it for sort of the wrong reasons initially and just actually quite like it. And
maybe it was so wrong it was right.
Well, yes, it's exactly that.
Reminds me of a remixed Bon Jovi album I have, which is called This Far Left Is So Right or something like that. It's awful title of it.
I mean, I was a bit of a Bon Jovi fan in my
It's got a sort of different acoustic version of Dead or Alive if you're interested on there. A loaded 6-string on my back.
Did see him in the old, what we used to refer to as the Arms Park in Cardiff. It wasn't the Arms Park, it was just the National Stadium. The Arms Park still exists. It's the small stadium next to it. But I saw that first ever live music event I went to as a teenager, straight after my GCSEs, a day after I completed my GCSEs, Bon Jovi in Cardiff.
He does like a white microphone stand as well, a bit like old Rod Stewart, but I think that's where the similarity ends. But anyway, enough of 70s and 80s rock.
Can we ever get enough of that?
No, probably not. But teaching is also the only profession, really, where people have an immediate guttural reaction when you say you're a teacher, don't they? They say, couldn't do your job. And then they immediately tell you how to do it. They couldn't do it, but here's some advice while you're there. You always then immediately get their view of whether they liked or hated school, and there's nothing in between, is there? There was nothing in between.
No, absolutely not.
Loved it or hated it? Want to go back?
On that note, I hated it, by the way. Hated every second of it.
I found it a bit of an endurance, but there were certain subjects that saved the day as far as I was concerned.
Possibly underneath all of the kind of, I didn't really want to do it kind of attitude that I pretend to have. Possibly I did want to do it, but mainly because I wanted to change the system from within. And I think there's a lot of people like that. And then we probably all sell out a little bit, don't we? And just kind of go along with the existing system to a large extent. But,
yes. Absolutely. And again, I'm looking back at this fascinating list from getting to teaching. Check your qualifications. Okay, tick, done that. Understand the funding. I don't know why you need to understand the funding from all the other routes. You'd only need to understand the funding for the route you were going down. Anyway, consider getting experience beforehand. I would say most people don't do that.
No.
So that advice probably ought to be in bold.
We've all got experience of going to school.
Yeah, well, some people think that is all the experience they need.
Yeah, it isn't.
It's nothing like
It's nothing like going to school, is it? No.
Yeah.
When I applied to do the PGCE, they said you must get some experience of, do a week's work experience in a school. So I did it, but actually no one checked that I did it. And they just let me onto the course anyway.
And your PGCE was all about reflection, wasn't it? Usually in the car crying beforehand, or... I've not got you down as a crier.
I didn't cry, but also I didn't have a car, which is quite actually difficult. They need to tell you that when you start your training.
Yeah,
you're going to need a car. That
should have been on the list. Yeah, that should have been.
How will you get to your placements? Because they won't make any allowances for the fact that you don't have a car. They will put you somewhere that's impossible to get to.
But don't forget, there's no advice or guidance between point 6 and 7. Starting your teacher training course and then applying for a teaching role.
Yeah, I used to have to get a lift with. When I did my first placement, when I didn't have a car, it was killing me. Getting up, I was getting up ridiculously early in the morning to arrive late for my place. Like I was doing almost a 2-hour journey, and I would have got up earlier to be on time, but the earliest train I could get got me there 15 minutes late. And I'd get these recriminating comments from my mentor. Why aren't you on time? Well, I physically can't get here on time. They've put me somewhere where I can't get here on time. So she said, well, there's someone who lives across the road from you who works here. They'll give you a lift. Now, that's great, brilliant. But what I didn't realise at the time was she hadn't asked that person.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. You didn't have the silent drives in, did you?
So well, it was worse. So what happened is I went to ask this design tech teacher, if she would give me a lift in. And she said, she looked at me like I was...
That you were at best an irritation.
Well, she just looked really put out by the request. It turns out, so she drove a Ford KA, the original Ford KA model, and they weren't the biggest of cars. And so fine for me and her to get in. But of course, we also had to accommodate the head of science, who was her live-in boyfriend. And he, up to the point where I arrived on the scene, he'd been driving them in his car, which was a 2-seater sports car. So this couple were fairly put out to have to go in the KA and accommodate me. So, Ben, having gone through that list of steps into teaching, what's your take-home this week?
Well, I suppose my take-home is the official route into teaching is graduate, train, qualify, but the emotional route is more about hope, panic and caffeine, I should say.
And my take, I think, is if you remember what your qualifications are,
yes,
and you're able to follow 8 steps that include starting the thing you applied for, then you just might have what it takes to become a teacher.
Yeah, or in my case, I didn't so much go into teaching as fail to leave the building after work experience.
Well done.
Yeah.
But if you are listening to this and you're about to start the journey into teaching, then good luck with that. If, like me and Ben, you completed that journey years ago, and ever since you've been experiencing an existential crisis, then maybe tune in next week so we can simultaneously empathise with you and rub more salt into the wound.
Look, guys, whatever happens, yeah, it's a great profession. Teaching is amazing. I mean, where else can a person with a master's degree or possibly even a PhD be defeated by a 12-year-old making farting noises?
Every time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.